Ever since I was 10 years old, I have loved everything Zeldies. From the terrible cartoon to wacky spin-off games like Triforce Heroes, I've had my hands in all of it. I was even excited for Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks before I played them and realized they do make bad Zelda games. Hate me if you want, those games sucked. And Ocarina of Time has always been and will always be my favorite game of all time, pun not intended. And if you can't tell by my Zelda shrine behind me here, pun intended that time, I meant that one. I'm still obsessed with Zelda even today, and playing Breath of the Wild was one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had. So you can imagine how excited I am now that the last of the DLC is out for this game, and the producer has announced they are working on the next big Zelda game. Now immediately my mind straight away goes to Breath of the Wild 2. It seems like the obvious choice, but is it? A couple of things that make me think that it is Breath of the Wild 2 or something like that, a continuation of the series we have just got on the Nintendo Switch. The first thing is, straight after Skyward Sword was released in 2011, they immediately began work on Breath of the Wild, which we just got. Which makes me think the fact that they immediately are working on a game after this one, it means it's probably the next big main title game. The other thing that makes me think it's the next Breath of the Wild game is from a personal standpoint and how I view the current world of Zelda, having followed it for so long. Breath of the Wild built something. Breath of the Wild built a new love for Zelda. It's one of the best, it is the best Switch selling game. It propelled the Switch initially to sell as much as it did. A big reason why so many Switch games are being successful, especially third-party games, is because people have the Switch now that they wanted to play Zelda on it, and now they're stuck with the system and they want to keep playing games. Unfortunately, so many great games are coming out, but the fact that all these people have the system because of Zelda means games like Dragon Ball Xenoverse actually sold something like 500,000 copies, which isn't bad for a port of a game that's about a year old. And so it's a no-brainer to me that they'd want to start working on that next big game for the Switch. Because when you think back, we had Twilight Princess, which was developed for GameCube, but they waited and they put it on the Wii at the same time because the Wii was the next big thing and they wanted to launch it with a Zelda game. But then we still got Skyward Sword on the system. We still got a Wii exclusive Zelda game. And that would not surprise me at all if right away they start working on the next big Zelda game that is going to be exclusively on the Switch. However, they did take, 5-6 years to make that game, so we might not see that Zelda game for a long time. In fact, I would prefer that. I wouldn't want this to turn into a yearly thing. I'd want at least a 3-year break, because that just builds the excitement, the anticipation, the hype for the next Zelda game. And also, if they want to make a game that has as much of an impact as Breath of the Wild did, in my opinion, they'd have to go back almost to the drawing board, almost to scratch. They can build on Breath of the Wild, but think about how you're going to reinvent it, how you're going to reimagine it, and bring it into a game that's going to be released 3, 4, 5 years from now. Because imagine where open world RPGs are going to be in that time. We just got Horizon this year, so imagine a game in 3 or 4 years on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One or whatever the new generation of system is then. Things are going to get bigger and better, and Nintendo has to keep up with that. So if they're making that next big Zelda game, it better be up to standard, and I'm sure it will be. I've seen a lot of speculation online that maybe it's not a direct continuation, maybe they're not doing that yet, maybe they're doing something like Link Between Worlds, maybe a third game in that series. It's hard to say. We know it's definitely going to be on the Switch because the 3DS will have long continued its support by then. We're talking a few years in the future, and the 3DS isn't supposed to continue support past 2018. Breath of the Wild was so great, was so amazing. I loved it so much. I mean, it got Game of the Year. So I would be fine if they made an improvement of that game, if they made Breath of the Wild 2. Added new things, maybe it added actual dungeons. I would actually like to see that. Rather than just shrine trials, maybe we could get the same Breath of the Wild type game and big hunking dungeons to explore. But my guess is Breath of the Wild 2 in some way. But in a way that's still gonna have you floored and still gonna get that same feeling that Breath of the Wild did and Ocarina did back in its time. But what do you guys think about the new Zelda's game? What's it gonna be like? Let me know down below. All these things we talked about today, do any of them make sense to you, or do you have a completely different train of thought when it comes to this? Remember to like this video, leave that comment down below, subscribe for Zeldies, and because we become best friends. Actually, speaking of Zeldies, I have a brand new, limited edition, limited time only Zeldies shirt. The people at Bonfire reached out to me and asked me if I wanted them to make me an exclusive shirt. And I said, yes, do something with Zeldies, because it's all I could think of. And I really liked what they did. I think it's a super cool design. So if you want to pick one of those up, I'll leave a link down below. And if you do pick it up, I really appreciate it. I love talking about Zeldies any chance I can get. So thanks for listening, even though we all know nothing. And it was literally just a video about speculations and excitement. But if you'll excuse me, all this talk of Zelda has me thinking, I need to finish that DLC. I actually got the bike recently and it's so much fun to drive that thing around. I wish I had that from the start of the game. It would have been so much better. I always lost the horse. My horse was non-existent through the whole game. I gave up on that mechanic because, I'm not gonna get into that now.